It's time for the Las Vegas Sports Line, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
Here we go. It is the Monday edition of the Las Vegas Sports Line. It is brought to you by Station Casinos. Chuck Esposito, Sunset Station, with us on the phone right now. Ralph Michaels in studio with me. All right, Platinum's doing the production. I'm Dave Cokin. Nice to have you with us. Plenty to talk about, and we know where we're beginning. This is sometimes you got to decide what's the lead story in the sports world, in the sports gambling world. This time it's easy. Yeah, we'll get to the Golden Knights and some other stuff as well, but it's all about Tiger today, Chuck. Wow, unbelievable performance, and this had to be enormous from a betting standpoint as well. Golf is very much back on the map.
It absolutely is, Dave. All I could say was I was in awe, and I know I talked about it last week on your show, that if there was a certain guy wearing a red shirt on the back nine, it was going to add an awful lot of intrigue to Sunday, and that absolutely was the case. Just the crowds in the book adjusting after every round. It just was great. I think it was great for golf. It was great for the network, of course, and great for our sports books that generated a tremendous amount of handle, and I think it's just going to enhance that moving forward, not only for the rest of the golf tournaments, but all the majors as well now. So I think it's good for us. Yeah,
and I think where it's really, the impact is going to be the biggest is in the live betting, because if ever a sport really, it really is set up for live betting. It's a beautiful live betting sport because you've actually got time between shots and between holes to put up a number and collect as much volume as you want. So it's great for the bettors and great for the books.
It absolutely is. I mean, we've talked about the live betting or in-play on other sports and how popular it's become and what a big part of our overall handle, not only the STN Mobile, but the in-play aspect as well. And, yeah, I think with Tiger, again, there was so much intrigue. He had a good first three rounds, but Molinari was in such good shape going into the last round. And, we were fortunate. I mean, you agree with it or not, we were a little bit more conservative. I think we had opened them up at 10-1. Took some action at 10 and 9-1, weren't quite as high as what you saw out there, made the adjustments that were necessary. And, he's a guy, even though when he was struggling, you still saw a tremendous amount of action on Tiger. I think if you like him or not, everyone was rooting for him to do well and to be back. And with the gap in between majors, Masters like this, it was just incredible. It was fun to watch, and I think it gets a new generation now introduced to Tiger, who maybe who hadn't seen him, who had won all these majors and all these tournaments. Now you got a glimpse of what it was, which I think was pretty cool.
Chuck, I'm an early bird, and I loved that early start time due to the weather. But how much did that cost the book? Would you have had 20 or 30% more of a handle if they had all day to bet there before those leaders went off?
Yeah, it's hard to predict exactly what, but the handle was so great, guys, on the overall tournament that, you saw it surpass last year. Every year it gets bigger and bigger, and with Tiger still in play, after the cut and everything, I think it made it that much more exciting. But it definitely cost a little bit, but I still think within play and everything else, and the fact that he was on that back nine and he was live, I think it just added so much intrigue, and I think that will help, though, long-term boost our overall golf handle even more.
Yeah, and look, we now have the PGA has always been the weakest of the majors as far as volume is concerned because it was the last major on the calendar. And, it's played at a different venue every year and just didn't have quite the
going
pizzazz.
Against football.
Well, yeah. And plus, it just didn't have the pizzazz of the Masters, the U.S. Open, and the British Open. Now, and I think it's a smart move by golf, they've moved the PGA up, so it's now the second of the four majors. This is the no-brainer of the year. This will annihilate all volume records from previous PGA tournament champions.
And it's at Bethpage, one of Tiger's courses that he won at, which is going to add another level of intrigue to it.
It absolutely is, Ralph. I think that's what's so cool about it right now is that, I think it's going to add that extra element now to see what he can do on the next major. The handle was great on this one. You had, some number of golfers. It was Kopech or Molinari or guys that were in it at the end. So I think it's going to be fun. I mean, it is going to add a lot of intrigue for us. And again, I can't stress enough. I know I've said it a number of times, but having that guy in their red shirt on that back nine was awfully cool.
Well, he'll be, look, we know one thing. He's going to be the favorite at Bethpage. What do you do in terms of the number? And this is where I guess you can turn back the clock, in essence, to kind of look to see what the betting patterns were in Tiger back in his heyday. Now, I'm not suggesting he's going to go through another heyday, but for the next three majors, he's probably going to be the favorite in all three based on what took place at the Masters. So how do you anticipate that in what you would expect to be heavy betting on Tiger in all three of these events?
I was going to say partially what you said, Dave, is that, I don't think you can readjust back to when he was in his heyday. I think he will be the favorite, of course. I don't think you'll see prices in that 12 to 15 range, but you still don't want to, make it so ridiculously low. I think, in any sport, you're still looking to be as competitive as you can, knowing where the action's going to be. It will be a little bit lower because he just won a major and because he's so popular and because maybe as an industry it wasn't the greatest outcome as far as win-loss, but I think it was as far as what it's going to generate and handle moving forward. So I think you look at all those factors, and again, you'll put up a price, but he will be the favorite, but you're definitely not going to find him in that 12 to 15 to 1 range. I can guarantee you of that.
And one last Tiger thought, this is going to continue on in June with the U.S. Open being back at Pebble, another Tiger course. So this theme is just going to continue to carry on this entire summer.
Yeah, and I think it adds some more pressure to him. I know there's been a long drought between majors, and of course him winning the Masters, but now that he has, there's going to be sky-high expectations that, is he back? Can he dominate again like he once did? So I think it's great. I think it's great for us to be talking about. It's great for, overall for sports books, for golf as a whole, and I think it's tremendous for our industry. I really do, guys.
Not bad, especially on Sundays, which is, kind of dead in this time of year. They won't be
now.
Not
if you were at the T-Mobile last night, it wasn't, boys.
No, and we're going to talk about that now because one thing we know about this Golden Knights team this year is they've been a streakier team than last year's Golden Knights, which were, just Golden Knights last year were just consistently this express. This year's team has gone on big runs in both directions. They played their best game in a long time last night, and they're home for Game 4. You have to adjust the line for the anticipated local action here, and it's going to be heavy on the Golden Knights tomorrow.
It absolutely is. I was fortunate enough. I was there last night, guys, with my son, and just there was something in the building last night. I think that, the Sharks, everyone thought it was probably going to be the Ducks, who were going to be our biggest rival, or the Kings, and maybe the Ducks, but it has become the Sharks. There is no question that the Sharks are our biggest rival. And the fact that these two teams have gotten so chippy and don't like each other, and the atmosphere in T-Mobile last night, we clearly took it to them, and it was fun. It was electric in there. More so even than the 2 Cup games that I went to last year. There was just something special in T-Mobile last night, guys.
What else was special was the fact that this line, and it's their second, supposedly it's their second line, but it's we'll call it 1A. They just completely dominated the Sharks last night. 5 goals from one line. Unbelievable. And the Sharks have goaltending problems, and everybody knows about it. What did you do with the number for Game 4, and how much did you have to shade it based on the local market?
I think you have to make a change. First, I'll talk about that line, 1 or 1A. With Stastny and Stone and Pacioretty, unbelievable, which is a really good thing. They went out and got these guys, and money well spent. On the flip side, you do need Tuck and Carlson, and Marcia Show to step up. You cannot have one line that is producing like that and no other line. So I thought defensively they played really well last night, a lot better on the back check. I thought the play where Tuck's helmet was knocked off, and he stayed aggressive and went into their zone. He had 2 good checks. He got checked once and then retaliated and got called for a penalty. I thought it kind of changed the atmosphere on a dime. I thought even though he got called for a penalty, San Jose went on the power play and scored. I don't think it mattered. I think it sent a message that we're not going to get pushed around like we did Game 1, and I thought that was great. I think if you're San Jose, you know that Jones came into the playoffs with the lowest save percentage of all goalies. Although San Jose had some success against Fleury, and they showed that in Game 1, they showed that coming back in Game 2, and they almost came back last night, guys. it was 5-3, and they were peppering him for a good 2 or 3 minutes. That game could have been 5-4 or 5-5 easily. I think you have to make a goalie change. I don't think you can put Jones back out there. If he gets lit up again, I think the series is over. I think you have to go to Dell and make the goalie change for Game 4. Hopefully that maybe they can pull it out. But if not, then maybe you go back to Jones. But I don't think you can start Jones in Game 4, in my opinion.
I think it's already been announced he's going to start Jones. So, good news.
I just think it's a tough spot to throw him back into. He has not played well in T-Mobile. Nope. He got lit up by Carlson for arguably the best goal in the season last year, late in that season game. His confidence is shot. I mean, anytime a goalie gives up a goal within 40 seconds in 3 straight periods, I mean, the whole psyche of your team has to really hurt at that point.
Not only that, by the way, our Carlson's playing better than their Carlson. I believe he was on the ice. Their Carlson was on the ice for 5 of the I think he was on the ice for 5 of the 6 goals last night. So they've got problems on the blue line. This is why going in to the Western Conference playoffs, a lot of us felt that just because, we got it completely wrong from this standpoint. Boy, Tampa Bay looks unbeatable. We'll get to them in a minute. But it was like, boy, the Golden Knights might have the best goaltending in the Western Conference with Fleury. And that alone makes them a threat to win the Western Conference. I think that thought process is getting validated right now.
I think it is, too. We talked about it, guys, in the weeks going up to the playoffs, is that regardless of where they were slotted, 1, 2, or 3, when it was pretty much a foregone conclusion it was going to be 3, that they had a huge advantage over San Jose with Jones, and a huge advantage, I thought, with Calgary and Smith. Smith has stood on his head for 2 games against Colorado. They're lucky it's 1-1, and they're not down 2-0. So I couldn't agree more with you. I think that first line, or that 1A, has played so well. In the NHL, it's so much different. We saw it 3 years ago when number 8, Nashville, beat number 1, Chicago. We've seen, 2-7, 1-8 really struggle in the past. It's happening with Tampa and Columbus now. But I think I agree with you. I think Fleury is the key right now. If he continues to play well and you can get the one line starting to produce, I think they're a dangerous team, especially as well as they play in T-Mobile.
Speaking of Tampa Bay, they're now 1 game away from elimination after winning 62 regular season games and a ton of money on the Lightning as far as the futures are concerned. I mean, they ended up going off at kind of a ridiculous price at the end of the regular season. How good is this result for the books?
It has been good. It's weird, but don't forget Columbus got up 2-0 to Washington last year and proceeded to lose the next 4 games. I thought going into yesterday that even though Tampa was down 2-0 and without Kucherov and Hedman, I thought there was still more pressure on Columbus because of what happened last year. The fact that they've never won a playoff series. They're all in with Duchesne, Bobrovsky, Panarin, all UFAs at the end of the season. There was more pressure on them. Think about Tampa, though, guys. They scored 30 more points than Columbus. They had a huge, over 100 positive point differential. The closest team was Calgary at plus 62. There wasn't even anybody at plus 50 outside of Calgary and Tampa. So this is an offensive juggernaut, a team that's dominated at home. They were, I believe, 30-9 on the road. So I think a lot of people felt, hey, no reason to press the panic button because they're still the better team. But Columbus took it to them from the onset last night. I think Tampa's in big trouble right now. If I'm Columbus and you're Torts, you're making sure that we keep our foot on the gas. You don't want them to go back home because they can easily make this series 3-2 and then a 2-game series. I think Tampa's in big trouble right now, down 3-0, guys.
Chuck, just offhand, do you have those odds for that series? Tampa Bay down 3-0?
I don't offhand, guys. I apologize.
Nope.
But it's going to be a monumental task, I think, to come back and have to win 4 in a row. Bobrovsky is a really good goalie, and I think with all the talk about those guys being UFAs and all that they were all in and never won a playoff series, I think they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Plus, they had to play playoff hockey for a good 3 weeks just to get into the playoffs. And if they do lose Panarin and Bobrovsky, I think they have to go all in and make sure for what they gave up that they're able to sign Matt Duchesne, and he becomes the cornerstone for that franchise.
The Las Vegas Aviators are off to a very impressive start in their new ballpark. Only 1 loss so far at home, 9-2 overall. And one of the cool things this year, and Station Casino's very much involved in this, you can bet on Aviators games. Now, we're not expecting a Golden Knights flow of massive dollars, obviously, but are you doing the volume you kind of expected? And I think I know the answer to this already, but are the locals backing the local team and therefore kind of cleaning up early on?